Hello, you focused UPSC aspirant, and welcome back to your daily deep dive. This is our analysis for April 16th, 2025, Part 1, really digging into the current affairs that matter for your prep.
Absolutely. And, some of what we cover today might ring a bell.
Right, we might have touched on some things before. Think of it as good revision, helps it all stick.
Exactly. Today, we're hitting quite a range. Key move in social justice policy, the big picture shifts in Indian farming, global risks affecting finance,
Mineral resource management efforts, some really interesting geology.
Dr. Ambedkar's ongoing relevance, and, well, a bunch of other important updates, too. The aim, as always, is to pull out the most useful bits for you.
Okay, let's jump straight in then. Social justice first. Telangana, they've officially started implementing sub-categorization for scheduled caste for jobs and education, right?
That's correct. Article 16.4 for employment, Article 15.4 for education.
And this didn't just come out of the blue. There's a legal context here, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. This is really interesting, actually. It follows the Supreme Court's big ruling back in 2024.
Ah, the state of Punjab versus Devinder Singh case?
Precisely that one. A 7-judge bench basically said, yes, states can subclassify SCs and STs if they need to.
Which was a change from before.
It was. It overturned the 2004 E.V. Chenaya ruling from Andhra Pradesh, which had said states couldn't do that.
So subclassification itself, for someone trying to grasp this for UPSC, what's the core idea?
It's essentially about recognizing that even within a larger group like the scheduled castes, some communities might be, well, significantly more backward than others.
Right, so it's not a monolithic plot.
Exactly. Subclassification allows the state to carve out separate quotas for these more disadvantaged groups within the overall SC category, trying to make the benefits reach those who need them most.
And the Supreme Court's logic, how did they justify this shift?
Their main point was that the presidential lists, under Articles 341 and 342, they don't actually create perfectly homogeneous groups. Just because several castes are listed together doesn't mean they're all at the same level or benefit equally.
Okay, I see.
So allowing states to look deeper and make internal adjustments or subclassifications is permissible. It helps target the benefits better.
It really brings up that idea of substantive equality versus just formal equality.
That was central to the ruling. The 6.1 majority really emphasized that. Subclassification is seen as a tool for substantive equality, ensuring real, meaningful equality in outcomes, not just formal equality, where everyone is treated the same on paper, even if their starting points are vastly different.
But giving everyone the same starting line, but ignoring the hurdles some have.
Exactly that analogy. And crucially, the court clarified this isn't about changing the actual presidential list from 1950. That stays untouched.
Okay, good clarification.
It's just about how the state applies the reservation policy based on that list.
And what about the Indrasani judgment? Did that play a role?
Well, the court noted that Indrasani, while setting the 50% cap, didn't specifically say you couldn't subclassify within SCs or STs. It focused more on OBCs then.
But states can't just do this however they want, presumably.
Oh, definitely not. They can't act arbitrarily. Any subclassification scheme will be subject to judicial review.
So checks and balances remain.
Yes. To ensure it's based on real data about backwardness and genuinely aims to fix inequalities, not just, political maneuvering. For UPSC prep, understanding this links directly to Articles 15, 16, and the whole social justice framework.
Okay, let's shift gears now. Indian agriculture. There's a big policy paper out from ICAR and AAP looking towards 2047.
Yes, Indian agriculture to 2047. It gives a really broad sweep of how things have changed and the challenges ahead.
And the transformation has been massive over the last 60 years or so.
Absolutely huge. We've gone from being food insecure to largely food surplus. The paper credits the Green Revolution, of course, input subsidies, MSPs. Those were key drivers.
But the relationship between farming and the overall economy has shifted too.
Dramatically. Agriculture's slice of the national income pie has shrunk from, 43% down to about 18%?
But the workforce share hasn't dropped as fast.
No, much slower. Still around 46% of the workforce is in agriculture, down from maybe 74%. That gap tells a story about productivity and income per worker.
And land holdings.
That's another major trend. Fragmentation. Marginal holdings, those tiny plots of 1 hectare or less, they've shot up from about half to over 2/3, around 68%.
Oh, and the average farm size has shrunk quite a bit then.
Yeah, down from about 2.28 hectares to just 1.08. Lots of people on smaller and smaller farms.
But it's not just about crops anymore, is it? There's diversification.
Definitely. Animal husbandry is a big one now, contributing nearly a third, about 31% of the agricultural GVA. Fisheries add another 7%. That diversification is important for resilience.
But the paper also flags some serious challenges for sustainability.
Yes, and these are critical for anyone studying Indian economy and environment for the exams.
So what are the main ones?
Well, first, the basic resource. Agricultural land itself is shrinking. Population pressure, cities expanding, industry, it all eats into farmland.
We have to grow more on less land, essentially.
Pretty much. Then there's fertilizer use. It's unbalanced. Subsidies often favor urea, leading to overuse of nitrogen and underuse of other nutrients. That's bad for soil health, and efficiency is low.
And water, always a critical issue.
A huge one. Over-extraction of groundwater is rampant in many areas, and irrigation efficiency is often quite low. We're not using water very smartly in many places.
And layered on top of all this, climate change.
Yes, the paper puts a number on it, reckons extreme weather events have already cut productivity growth by nearly 25%. That's significant.
So resource constraints, climate impact, any other major hurdles?
Yeah, things like underdeveloped markets, access to credit, weak value chains. Farmers often struggle to get good prices or connect efficiently to consumers. And policies sometimes remain too focused on cereals, maybe hindering further diversification.
Okay, quite a list of challenges. So what does ICAR and NEAP suggest? What are the recommendations for a sustainable path forward?
They cover a lot of ground. For water, it's about pushing rainwater harvesting, groundwater recharge, and definitely more micro-irrigation sprinklers, drips.
Makes sense? Policy changes.
They suggest things like gradually phasing out electricity subsidies for farming, which encourages inefficient water pumping, promoting newer tech like nano-fertilizers, and encouraging sustainable practices, crop rotation, intercropping, things like that.
What about the bigger picture? Markets, R&D?
Absolutely. Investing more in research and development is key, strengthening market infrastructure, storage, transport, and reforming price policies to better support diversification and nutritional goals, not just staple grains.
It's a long-term vision, clearly. Very relevant for understanding economic development and food security in India.
Definitely key UPSC territory.
All right, let's broaden our view again, look internationally. The IMF's Global Financial Stability Report, it seems quite concerned about geopolitical risks these days.
Yes, the latest report really flags these risks as being elevated and potentially quite impactful on global financial stability.
What specific kinds of risks are they highlighting?
They mentioned several things. One big one is threats to supply chains, and not just one kind of threat. They're talking rivalries between powers, actual conflicts, competition over resources, even cyber attacks disrupting trade.
We've definitely seen how fragile those chains can be. What else?
They talk about tectonic shifts, changes in global power, economic centers moving, new alliances forming, investment patterns changing. They even point to things like the fragmented tax environment, like how countries are approaching the global minimum tax differently.
Interesting. Kind of a reordering of the global system.
In a way, yes. And then there are pressures on workforces, aging populations in some places, retirement trends, falling birth rates, even culture wars impacting social cohesion, and of course, the massive integration of AI into jobs.
Those are some deep-seated global trends. How could these geopolitical and societal shifts actually impact financial stability, according to the IMF?
Well, they see several potential impacts. One is sovereign risk. If countries increase military spending due to tensions or face economic downturns, their public debt could rise unsustainably.
Raising worries about defaults.
Potentially, yes. Then there's financial contagion. Problems in one country, sparked by geopolitics, could spill over quickly through trade links and financial connections.
A domino effect.
Right. And macroeconomic impacts more broadly, disruptions, supply issues, feeding inflation, maybe capital flowing out of certain regions suddenly. And all this erodes investor confidence, leading to market jitters, more volatility.
They mentioned the U.S.-China trade issues as an example, I gather.
Yes, that's cited as a case where geopolitical friction clearly had negative economic consequences globally.
So given these concerns, what's the IMF advising policymakers to do? How can we build resilience?
They have a few key recommendations. One is to enhance financial oversight, basically. Regulators need to actively factor geopolitical risks into how they supervise banks and financial institutions.
Makes sense. Be prepared.
Exactly. They also recommend strengthening capital buffers for these institutions so they can absorb potential shocks. For emerging markets, they suggest deepening their own financial markets to provide better ways to hedge risks locally.
And on the government side?
Maintaining macroeconomic buffers is crucial, having fiscal space, enough international reserves to weather storms, and generally improving crisis preparedness and international cooperation.
So really building shock absorbers into the system at multiple levels.
Mm,
Important context for understanding global economics and India's place in it.
definitely. These global currents inevitably affect us.
Okay, bringing it back home now. District Mineral Foundations, or DMFs, the Ministry of Mines is looking to improve how they work.
That's right. They're planning to set up a program management unit, a PMU.
A PMU. And the goal is to make the DMFs and the main scheme, the PMKKKY, more efficient.
Exactly. Improve efficiency and effectiveness.
Let's back up a bit for listeners. What are DMFs, fundamentally?
Okay, so they were set up under the MMDR Act, the Mining Act, back in 1957, technically, but really operationalized more recently. They're supposed to be nonprofit bodies set up in every district affected by mining.
And their purpose?
The core objective is to benefit the people and the areas affected by mining operations. Basically, to ensure some of the wealth generated from mining goes back to mitigate the negative impacts and help local communities.
Who runs them and how are they funded?
The state governments actually prescribe their composition and functions, so it can vary a bit. They're now set up in, I think, 645 districts across 23 states. Funding comes directly from mining companies. They have to contribute a percentage of the royalty they pay.
And that money is meant to be used through this PMKKKY scheme.
Yes, the Pradhan Mantri Khanij Kshetra Kalyan Yojana. That scheme provides the guidelines for how DMF funds should be spent.
What are the main goals of PMKKY?
It aims to fund development and welfare projects, mitigate the adverse impacts of mining, like pollution, and promote sustainable livelihoods for the people in those areas.
Are there specific priorities for spending?
Yes, the guidelines say at least 70% of the funds should go to high-priority areas. That includes things like drinking water, pollution control, healthcare, education, sanitation, skills development, welfare of women and children. The essentials, really.
Sounds like a good system on paper. So why the need for this new PMU? What's not working well with the DMFs?
Well, there have been some persistent issues. A major one is large amounts of unspent funds. Estimates suggest more than half the money collected hasn't actually been used effectively.
Really? Why?
Often due to poor planning, delays in project execution, maybe a lack of capacity at the district level. There are also concerns about how the money that is spent is used. Sometimes too much goes into infrastructure projects rather than directly addressing the core needs like health or pollution control.
And governance issues.
That's another point raised. Sometimes DMFs can function almost like extensions of the district collector's office, with maybe not enough representation or active participation from the affected communities themselves in deciding priorities. And often there's a lack of proper structured annual planning for how the funds will be utilized.
So the PMU is intended to help address these gaps, planning, execution, maybe ensuring funds go where they're most needed.
That seems to be the aim. It's about bringing more professional management and oversight. This whole area connects to resource management, local governance, social impact, all very relevant for UPSC.
Okay, let's switch to something quite different, geology. New research about the Indian continental plate. Sounds intriguing.
It is. There's new thinking emerging that suggests the Indian plate might actually be splitting apart deep underneath.
Splitting? Tell me more. We know the Indian plate is moving north and crashing into Eurasia, creating the Himalayas, right?
Exactly. That collision started maybe 60 million years ago and is still ongoing. It's what uplifted the Himalayas and the Tibetan Plateau.
And the usual explanations involve things like underplating or subduction.
Right. Underplating is where the denser lower part of the Indian crust slides under the Eurasian crust. Subduction is usually when a denser plate, often an oceanic one, slides completely beneath another plate.
But continental plates are thick and relatively light, making subduction harder.
Precisely. They're buoyant, so they don't like to sink easily into the mantle.
So what's this new theory proposing instead?
It's called delamination. The idea is that as the Indian plate goes under the Eurasian plate, the bottom, denser part of the Indian plate is actually peeling off or detaching.
Peeling off.
Yeah, and sinking down into the hotter mantle below, while the upper, lighter part of the crust continues its journey northward. So it's like the plate splitting horizontally deep down.
Wow, okay. Delamination. That offers a different picture of the deep mechanics driving mountain building.
It does. It's significant for understanding these massive geological processes and how features like the Himalayas are formed and evolve. Definitely relevant for the geography part of the syllabus.
Fascinating stuff. Now let's mark an important anniversary. April 14th was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's 135th birth anniversary, celebrated as Equality Day. His influence is immense.
Absolutely immeasurable.
Right.
His work on social justice, law, equality. His vision for society is still incredibly relevant.
His idea of society in annihilation of caste, it wasn't just a static thing, was it?
No, not at all. He saw society as dynamic, constantly being made and remade through human interactions and relationships. He really rejected the idea of society as some fixed entity, especially one based on the rigid hierarchy of caste.
And he laid out principles for what an ideal society should look like.
He did. Foundational principles. First, the individual is the ultimate end. Society exists for the individual's growth, not the other way around.
Individual dignity at the core.
Yes. Second, interactions must be based on liberty, equality, and fraternity. And third, the society must actively ensure political, economic, and social justice for everyone using the Constitution and law.
How did he envision achieving this ideal? What were the means?
Well, essentially, abolishing the caste system was non-negotiable. He advocated using reason and morality to achieve this.
And economically.
He proposed state socialism, nationalizing land and key industries. The goal was one man, one value, aiming for economic equality alongside social and political equality.
And politically.
Ensuring political equality and equal share in power for everyone. And crucially, he insisted on using constitutional methods, no violence, restructuring society through democratic and legal means.
Let's unpack those core values a bit more. Liberty, equality, fraternity. How did Ambedkar understand them specifically?
For Ambedkar, liberty wasn't just political freedom. It was deeply tied to freedom from social oppression, particularly caste. It meant the right to choose your path, your profession, your movement, breaking free from predetermined caste roles.
So individual choice over inherited status.
Exactly. Equality for him wasn't about making everyone identical. It was a guiding principle to ensure everyone starts with the same opportunities, a level playing field for fair competition, recognizing people have different abilities but deserve equal chances.
And fraternity. That seems key to holding it all together.
Absolutely vital. He saw it as a sense of common brotherhood. Unity across diverse backgrounds. It allows for free association, sharing ideas, working together. He believed democracy couldn't survive without fraternity. It's the bedrock of social cohesion.
His thinking really underpins so much of our constitutional framework and ongoing social debates. Essential understanding for UPSC.
Without a doubt. His ideas on social reform, political thought, the Constitution, absolutely crucial.
Okay, let's quickly round up some other important updates listeners should be aware of. ONDC first.
Right, the Open Network for Digital Commerce. They've appointed 8 interim executive committee members while they look for a new CEO. Just a reminder, ONDC aims to create an open e-commerce network, connecting everyone using open source methods.
And the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, BEE. Any news there?
They're stepping up enforcement of the standards and labeling program. You know, the star ratings on appliances. They're cracking down on fake ratings to ensure consumers get accurate energy efficiency info. BE's goal is reducing India's overall energy intensity.
There was also a remembrance of Chetar Sankaran there.
Yes, the PM remembered him. He's known for suing the Lieutenant Governor of Punjab over the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. He was quite prominent Madras High Court judge, Viceroy's council member, even INC president, and involved in social reform, too.
Technology now back on. Sounds specific.
It is. Developed at IIHS Bengaluru, it's India's first automated system to monitor bats using their echolocation calls. It uses AI to detect and analyze the calls in real time. Could be very useful for conservation.
Global Health WHO guidelines on meningitis.
Yes, first ever comprehensive guidelines covering diagnosis, treatment, and care. It's part of the bigger goal of defeating meningitis by 2030. Meningitis is that inflammation around the brain and spinal cord, still a serious threat.
And something about bonobos and communication?
Fascinating study suggesting they use compositional communication, combining smaller sounds into more complex calls, similar in principle to human language. Bonobos are closely related to us, known for being relatively peaceful, female-led, and sadly endangered in the DRC.
Wildlife conservation in India, the Cheetah Project.
Update there. The steering committee has cleared relocating some cheetahs from Kuno National Park to Gandhi Sagar Wildlife Sanctuary, also in Madhya Pradesh, spreading them out a bit.
And cybersecurity Q-Shield.
New platform from Kuno Labs. It's for managing cryptography, securing data seamlessly across different environments like cloud or on-premise systems, aimed at protecting sensitive info and critical infrastructure.
One more, ESA's Biomass mission.
European Space Agency is launching this mission soon. It'll use a special radar, P-bands-R, from orbit to map global forest biomass, basically, how much plant matter is in forests and the carbon stored within them. First global map of its kind.
Okay, that's a comprehensive roundup. And that brings us to the end of this deep dive for April 16th, 2025, Part 1, a focused look at key developments for your UPSC journey.
We've certainly covered a lot of ground: social justice, agriculture, global finance, resource management, geology, history, tech, environment. It's all interconnected.
Absolutely. Keep thinking about those connections and how these topics fit into the broader UPSC syllabus. If you found this helpful, please do hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives.
And a final thought to leave you with. We talked about substantive equality regarding SC subcategorization. Maybe reflect on how that principle, aiming for real, meaningful equality, not just formal rules, could apply or be considered in other policy debates and social justice challenges in India today.